Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm joined with a couple of my colleagues today, which I'll introduce shortly. We've got 5 winning SEO tactics that you can apply in a time of crisis that we're going to walk you through, give you a bit of guidance really on what we're doing at the moment. Appreciating that it's a very difficult time to be a business owner, completely unprecedented times, and difficult for ourselves as an agency, obviously difficult for each of your businesses as well. So we wanted to give a bit of advice on what we're doing, some of the tactics that we're employing, and hopefully just share a bit of best practice. Going forward, we're going to continue to hopefully do some of these sessions as well, so that you can continue to benefit or tap us up for advice over the next couple of months, and hopefully we can support each other through this difficult time. I do think the situation we're facing is as I said, unprecedented. However, there is some opportunity in it as well, which is something that I really want to get into together today. So some of you will know me, others may not, but Luke Tobin, Managing Director, founder of Digital Ethos. Digital Ethos is a performance marketing agency, so the core services that we offer are things like SEO, pay-per-click, social media, and all the different facets of marketing around that. Currently, there's a team of 22. I think our sort of point of difference really as an agency has always been that we try to operate as an extension of clients' core teams. So quite often we'll spend half a day or a day, sometimes longer, on site with customers at the front end of any relationship. I think it gives us a chance to ask all the silly questions that your own staff may ask in that period of time, and that certainly gives us a good base to understand how the business functions and move things forward efficiently from that stage onwards. As a business, we've done well up to now, 90–95% retention rate after 5 or 6 years, so that's been really solid. Obviously COVID-19 causes some knocks to that with some customers in difficulty, and again, this is part of the reason for this want to support and look at what opportunities are out there. Some of the customers that we've worked with, a few of these are household brands you'll know. We work currently with about 100 clients across various different industries, around 30 or 40 industries, all shapes and sizes, from one-man bands through to big multinational businesses. And I think what's consistent is that if you understand and you create the right strategy, the right approach, it doesn't really matter. You can compete online, and that's something that we've been able to certainly help deliver for different customers of different sizes. A couple of house rules, if you like, for the webinar. So please mute microphones. I can see that that's already done, so that's one tick done. A little bit later on, I'm going to spend probably 20–25 minutes or so, depending on how long it takes, to go through each of the slides, and then we'll have a Q&A session, which I think will be a really great time and chance for everybody to raise any questions, any concerns they're having, and we can jump into those and try and give some support. We will follow up the webinar with a full recording. Regrettably, you'll be able to watch me over and over again, but we'll transcribe it as well, so you'll get any answers to questions that are asked, as well as some tools and blogs, some bits that you can do yourselves, and of course the presentation itself as well. We have on the line as my support, in case you curveball me with any questions that I can't answer, a few people in the panel from the Digital Ethos team. So obviously myself, that now you know, Nick Hudson, who's head of digital. Nick's got a wealth of experience from development through to PR, through to SEO, so some really good support there if needed question-wise. Callum as well is our paid specialist that's on the line, and Rachel can discuss anything social media or email. So I think across the panel we have enough support to answer any questions you may have. So jumping straight in then, really, COVID-19, the dreaded virus that has knocked us all for six. It's really easy to get lost in the news, get lost in everything that's happening. We've all lost money. We're all up against it and trying to make cost savings and decisions that we've never thought we'd have to make. I think what I'd like to do, rather than all of the negative side of it, is focus on the positives today. Certainly from a digital marketing landscape, one thing that is for sure, Google are reporting, if you look at trend data, Google is busier than ever. People are more active on search engines right now than they have ever been, and that makes logical sense because they're sat at home on sofas, or they're working from home and getting distracted, you know. So the internet usage is going up. E-commerce sites and certain industries are reporting bigger than ever sales. Amazon are recruiting, they're doing their biggest recruitment drive they've done in the last 5 years. So what does that mean? That means that somewhere in this, there is opportunity for businesses to diversify into potentially more online channels. Are there services you can sell online? Is there an opportunity to have a new service or a side service to the business? If you're in e-commerce or you have some sort of shop or product service, then absolutely there's a massive opportunity to be selling on marketplaces if you haven't done it before, so eBay, Amazon, Etsy, etc. The other thing is that we've noticed a massive pullback and obviously a sort of fear of spending any money across multiple industries, which means that as competition retracts and pulls back, there is a real opportunity and a chance to push forward. One thing we've noticed even in our own industry is that a lot of our own SEO rankings, because we've been pushing them forward over this period of time, are excelling quicker than we would have expected. And I think some of that is just because other competition is falling back. So one thing that we really want to stress is that we really think now is the time not to think about stopping SEO. In fact, it's probably the time to really ramp it up and push it forward. It's not SEO is a mid to long-term strategy anyway. It's never short-term. I wish it was. Things like pay-per-click and social media, etc., are a lot more instant, and you know, you can get sales off the back of that quickly. Also, the ad spend on them can be quite high. So what we have seen across all the industries that we service is certainly a want to reduce ad spend. And if we look at what that's done to Google, the CPCs or cost per clicks that are now available in some industries are cheaper than they've been in 10 years. So again, opportunity, probably more people, more internet users, more people on Google than ever, and cheaper prices to advertise on there. But PPC will cover another time. Obviously, we're doing SEO today. So basically, there is opportunity in it. If you stop SEO or you reduce the focus on moving SEO forward, keywords will decline, website traffic will decrease. Things like technical issues can pop up on websites which can take weeks or months to fix later. And the competition that is seeing this as an opportunity will most definitely stride ahead. And when things do settle back down, which inevitably they will, who knows? You know, we have to be a bit mystic neggy if we were trying to guess that whether it's going to be a month, 3 months, or however long. But at some point, it will subside. I think buyer habits, the way that people interact online will change. I think more people will shop online and reduce some of the offline purchase decisions that they would have had before. So that means again that there's opportunity to step ahead, and you need to be there for when things do start to go back to some sort of level of normality. So jumping into the tactics. First one is going to be talking about improving site structure. Now, this sounds like a pretty obvious one, but to be honest, it's one of the most important SEO strategies that you should employ. And so many client websites or people's websites that we see miss the point of this. And it's the basics. If you don't get this right, you're fighting an uphill battle constantly to try and get anything else right. So a good site structure means great user experience. If you hit yourself as a user a home page, and it's easy then to move through to sub pages or service pages, product pages, whatever it might be, and it's logical to you, then it makes the content really easy to engage and to find. Then for the user, it's going to make it easier. It's going to make them want to stay on the website. But also there's something here that often gets missed, I think, when building websites. And if you're not technical, it's easy to miss these things. Google is a machine algorithm, and Google wants to read data and it wants to read a website in a structured way. So if you create structure to your website, if you imagine a book, so if you're reading a book, you'd expect to see a page number, a title, chapter, etc. That gives you structure to what you're reading. If it was all over the place, it would be a horrible experience trying to read that book. Well, it's exactly the same as far as Google's concerned. It wants you to structure the pages and structure the data so that it's logical for them to understand what you're trying to achieve. Now, the way that we do this is that we look at what's called keyword clusters. So we obviously want to rank for keywords in search engines. That's obviously the key. So if we have a core keyword, if I relate it to my business, so SEO agency, for example, then I have semantic variants of that keyword. So things like SEO agency Birmingham would be a semantic variant. Then I might support that with things like question-based terms, which would be, I don't know, best SEO agency in Birmingham or top 10 SEO agencies, for example. By creating that cluster, it gives Google a really clear, and the user a really clear journey to follow. This one we've actually created like almost like a Tesco's, for example. So Tesco's /vegetables. So you come through the homepage, you know that you want to buy a vegetable, you click through to the vegetable page, and then there you're looking for carrots. So the simple way of structuring the URL is to have a /carrots. Then in order to give that more authority and give that page more credibility, you would then create blogs or supporting pages beneath that, which could be things like, I don't know, carrot recipe, carrot cake, carrot soup, that sort of thing. And this shows it a little bit deeper. So this starts to look at how then we link those pages so that, again, it's logical for Google. And there's a thing called anchor text, which is basically the text that you're wanting Google to pick up, almost like a tag. It's what you want that page to rank for and what you're identifying that Google should recognize as the keyword that you want to rank for. So within this cluster, we know that we've got vegetables, we know that we've got /carrots, but what we're now doing is we're linking from vegetables to carrots, from carrots to the carrot term in the URL that's in the blog, and back around in a cycle. So it becomes a really logical linking structure that's constantly adding more credibility and more guidance for Google. Now, we always say think about Wikipedia, and the reason for this, excuse me, is that they do an absolutely incredible job of this. Whenever you look on Wikipedia, there's a route to answer questions on anything. And if you look at the way it's structured, you can move in there, and rather than getting lost, it's really logical as to why you've moved to the next section and the next question. So it's always a good thing to look at them as an example. And then clear page topics make Google bots understand pages. I think this is just summarizes what I've said. Good content, clear, easy to navigate content, page structures will make it easier for Google to understand what you're trying to rank for, and in turn that gives you more opportunity to rank in the search engines. Okay, so tactic 2, master search intent. So basically over the last couple of years, Google has been making some quite significant updates to its algorithm. They actually report that they update probably once or twice a day, very small tweaks, but the biggest ones happen can be 2 to 4 times a year. Last year there was 4 updates. The main focus of them was around search intent. So if we look at sort of a couple of these comments on here that sort of help to sum it up, content that doesn't match search intent simply won't work. And there's different types of search intent that people have, and you will know this yourselves when you do searches. Sometimes you're searching for a website specifically, so it's navigational. You might be searching for Facebook, for example. So rather than putting facebook.com in the URL, you're literally just searching on the search engine because it's quicker than having to search for it or type it in yourself. So you do a search, you click through, that's navigational. You're just literally trying to pass through Google to get to somewhere. There's informational, which is looking for, this is quite often blog related or content related, things like top tips, signs of pregnancy, you know, what are the symptoms of COVID-19, whatever it might be. And then you have transactional. These are the ones where people are looking to purchase, or there's some sort of intent to purchase, getting quotes, getting insurance quotes, looking for an item, black t-shirt, whatever it might be. Now, what's important is when you're trying to rank a page, you need to make sure that you're doing a search on Google first and foremost to understand what the intent for that keyword already is in Google. So for example, if you're trying to rank for the wrong intent on a search query, but all of your competitors are ranking for something, ranking with a completely different intent, your chances of success are next to zero. So just trying to summarize that here. So two main intents. One is transactional. So if you do a search for illuminated mirrors brings up here on the right hand side, you can see that there's options to buy, which is through Google Shopping. Then you have your organic listings here. Again, options to buy, e-commerce based websites, very transactionally focused. If you were trying to pop up some sort of blog content in there, chances of competing would be next to zero. So you need to make sure you're matching that intent. Similarly over here, another example for information-based searches, searching for performance management. So really the trend for that at the moment, by the way, is going up massively, of course, HR type tooling. So things like performance management will be informational. So you're looking for fact sheets, blogs, articles, things that tell you what is effective performance management. Moving into tactic 3. So this one is a one that everyone would have heard of. Improve your site speed. It's part of the basics, but it's becoming so important, more and more and more important as the months and years go on. I think we all know that if you hit a website and it's slow or it takes a while, the clock's ticking, it's frustrating. It damages the user experience. People don't want to stay on the website. In fact, they start to think their browser's probably broken and go back to Google. They start looking to wonder if their 4 or 5G's dropped off. It's a really bad first impression. So, you know, so slight will most definitely damage the user experience, but it also damages credibility with Google. Google releases information constantly on what it expects as far as speeds on a website to be. And they basically work that because they're looking at user experience themselves. So Google's mantra is to provide the user at the point of sale with the most relevant information possible. Now, if you're always thinking like that when you're looking at these steps, it will really help you. If Google sees that users are hitting a site and they're not getting the experience they want, or they're churning off, or the bounce rates are too high, they're going to penalize you as far as your rankings go. So a speedy site, some obvious bits in here that make sense, will allow the site to be crawled more effectively and quicker by Google, which helps to help them rank. Obviously, strengthens the brand, increases customer loyalty, and gets you more engagement. This is a really nice little slide that shows the bounce rate statistics. This is produced by Google themselves. So if you have a site that is between 1 and 3 seconds load time, you have a bounce rate percentage of 32%. If it's between 1 and 5 seconds, it's up to 90%. That is such a huge difference there straight away. It does depend on industry, and it depends on country. Some countries are better at this than others, but it's massive. 1 to 6 seconds, 106%, and 1 to 10 seconds, 123%. I mean, it's just unbelievable. If you hit 10 seconds, they think the internet's broken and they're probably gone. Excuse me. Average excuse me. Average speed by industry. So this one's really interesting. This is UK focused data, and what you can see here is that in the UK, sorry, a bit of a frog in my throat. Hopefully not coronavirus. So UK-based data by industry. What's really interesting here is that you can see that the UK, and most of us at the average in the UK, are inherently awful at site speed. We need to do a better job. I mean, this just shows, I mean, there's none here that are below, on average, 5 seconds. The ones and the competitors of yours that are higher probably are the ones that are doing better. So what this means is that if we improve site speed, it can be it's a really defining factor in the search algorithm. It's a real opportunity for us to get ahead of some of the competition. There's some real opportunity in there. So there's lots of ways you can improve site speed, and we will follow up with some tools and some ideas after this, as I mentioned. But there's some things like add a cache to your site. If you're using certain CMSs like WordPress, there's certain plugins that you can use. In another vein to that as well, if you've got plugins on there that you used to use or that are now outdated, just delete them, deactivate them, get rid of them. They slow the site down. If you're using lots of animation, graphics, video, things on your website that probably don't need to be there because they're slowing the site down, let's remove them or minify them. Let's really look at what's essential and what is causing the site to slow down. There's some really cool tools you can use. Google has its own called Page Speed Insights. We'll send you that afterwards, run it through. It will give you a list of all of the bits that are slowing the site down currently. It will often be things like image sizes, broken links, etc. They're quick fixes, and they're things that if you can't do yourself, they can be picked up very, very quickly by a developer or somebody else. So tactic 4, write great metas. Now, metas, titles, and descriptions, etc., no longer, as far as Google reports, play as much as far as the ranking factors go in their algorithm. But what it does do is it certainly helps with click-through rate and engagement levels. So one thing that we test a lot as an agency is changing these up to really see what gets the best engagement. And it's still one of the most effective things that you can do to draw more people from the search engine results page through to your website. So make sure the title of the meta title is the title of the search result, so always as relevant to it as possible. Describe the main topic of the page, and try and increase the click-through rate by doing that. You can see here in the picture that someone searched for SEO Birmingham. We've actually spelt out what SEO means to make it simple. We've then added the location as one of the first keywords because we want to draw people in from that location, and then we've used a drain pipe and capped off at the end the exact term that they've used as well. So how to write great titles, just use target keywords as the first word. That tends to be the best approach. Add USPs, things that might be relevant to draw people in. Make sure that if you're putting an offer or something in there that is a hook, if you like, to pull people into the page, that you then offer it on the page. I see so many times people putting discounts on titles, but then when you actually click the page, there is no discount to be found. So don't deceive people, make sure it's relevant and keep it simple. Meta descriptions. So what is a meta description? Again, in the search engine results page, it's the block of content that sits underneath your title, your meta title. It again is a snippet of information that allows users to understand what the intent of that page is. So it creates intrigue, it pulls the user in if it's well written. If you don't fill these out yourself and optimize them, Google will do it for you, and quite often the bits that they pull through from pages are not necessarily what you want to show. Also, you can see in this example here that even some of our competitors have got this sort of ... going on at the end. It's not capped off, it's not got any nice call to actions in there. To be honest, they've sort of not followed best practice advice there and written a decent description. So how to do it? Again, I'll share this, but make sure it's action orientated. Try and pull them into the website. At the end of the day, when they've done that search, there is intent there. You've got a chance of pulling that person through. If you don't do it now, you're going to lose them forever. Keep it under 155 characters. Again, don't deceive, be honest, offer realistic offers and call to actions, and pull them into the website. This sort of talks about the negative effect of, if you don't write them well or having duplicate content on these metas. What's really important is that you make sure that if you're trying to rank a page for a certain term and you're tagging it with these different metas, that you don't have competing pages. So you're not confusing Google, you're not confusing users, you're not trying to rank too many pages for the same thing. One really good example of this for ourselves is that we have a lot of location pages in the UK for different areas that we service. So we'll have we'll have Digital Ethos /SEO /SEO Birmingham, for example, or SEO York. We only want that page to show for SEO, not our main Digital Ethos /SEO page, because it would be confusing. So we keep things as concise as possible, and again, structure in a way that Google can really understand what we're trying to rank and which pages we're trying to rank for which location. Top tip on this, there's a really cool tool that you can use called Screaming Frog. Again, we'll send you the link. There's also a character length checker you can use called To The Webs Checker. It allows you to really see what's going on and make sure that you're within the guidelines. If you've got a WordPress site or Joomla or some of these open source type websites, there are plugins that you can install, like All-in-One SEO Pack or Yoast, which gives you a traffic light system, literally tells you whether it's red, amber, or green. Follow that for some basic guidance on SEO principles. Okay, so tactic 5, use Google My Business. Now, this one, it's amazing how many localized businesses I see and we see as a business that are not utilizing local search the way that they should or could. Having a Google Business My account is pretty much, if you have a location or you have a physical service location, you will have one of these. It's just whether you're using it to your benefit. So Google loves and favors local search. Again, go back to their mantra, provide the user at the point of search with the most relevant information possible. Well, a local search or local service is most relevant as far as they're concerned because it's physically there. So increase your visibility on the search results by optimizing Google My Business. So it improves local SEO, helps you appear in the maps, gives you a chance to win over localized business and grab attention. It's got lots of different features to it, things like the ability to add posts, so that's blogs, articles, you can create events, there's offers, so again, really cool call to actions that you can do in there. If you come across blogs or content that you think are relevant for your customer base, you can post them on there. Customers can answer questions, and of course they can leave reviews. So I'm sure a few of you have probably utilized the review section, but maybe not necessarily the rest of it. The more you can do on there, the more opportunity you have to appear in local search. This is a slide that explains how to set it up if you don't have it. Also, there's a couple of really cool blogs here. One's from Moz, which is really useful on how to optimize it going forward. So I won't spend too much time on this slide, but it is really worth having a look through those extra articles. And then this is something that, again, is worth mentioning just because people miss it. When you go into the back end of Google My Business, it's really easy to go in and optimize things like your description. Again, tag the services that you offer. So again, for our business, SEO, PPC, social media, if we weren't doing that, we're missing out on, again, feeding Google the intent of what we do. Add the service area, so add things like, if you have multiple locations, you can create multiple GMBs. So we have one for York, Leicester, Birmingham, London, etc. And it helps us have a localized presence and footprint in each of those places, and then make sure, again, that you're updating them on a regular basis as well. Now, hopefully that's been useful in between my few coughing spurts in between. What we're going to do now is answer any questions that have come up. Obviously, as I mentioned, we do have our panelist available as well. So happy to answer questions on SEO, paid search, social, or email. Again, any facets of that. So no questions can't be answered. So let me know the first questions. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Hopefully everyone's been able to hear me okay. I can see one question here about sound, so hopefully everyone's been able to hear. I know Rachel has a list of questions that have come in as well through our other broadcast channels, so we can go through them. So does paid links affect SEO? So okay, yeah, good question. And I think probably the honest way of talking about it is that Google will always say that purchasing paid links is a big no-no, and actually as a rule of thumb it is. I think where there is a slight caveat to that is that certainly in this day and age, everybody's become quite shrewd and quite wise to the fact that if you're creating content and outreaching that content to third-party blogs, then or third-party sites, then actually there's a financial element that they can employ there. So it's almost like advertorials. When you look at PR, there's been advertorials in place for a long time. Google doesn't penalize advertorials. Similarly, if you can find paid placements that are reputable on sites that have a good domain authority backing and are going to help boost to the authority of the website, then absolutely it's still worth doing and it's worth employing. It just needs to be taken with real research, making sure that the site that you're linking to is relevant, that there is authority there, and that you're following the best guidelines that you can. There's another one here. First of all, thank you. My question for international audience: should we always use Google keywords? Use English keywords or local language? Good too. Yeah. So for international, I think a mix of both is great. Depends on the country, of course, and depends on the audience. Quite a lot of the European or international clients that we work with will have different language versions of their website. So if that's the case, then it's quite easy to optimize within each version of the site for the localized terms, and that would be probably the best approach. Obviously, creating content and blog content, articles, etc., that allows you to prop up those keywords in each of the languages would then be a really useful approach.
Yeah, we've worked on a number of sites where we've had multiple languages with the same content, and I think the key to the success of that is making sure that you employ what are called href lang tags, so that all of the content points to each other depending on which language you're searching in and which region you're searching from. So Google will serve the most relevant page based on your browser language, your location, and it's okay to copy that information into other languages as long as all those tags are there to say, well, this is actually a page that's available in multiple other languages.
Yeah, exactly. There's a question here from Colin. Does PPC affect natural rankings? It's been a debate for a long time. To be honest, the easy answer is yes. One thing that we've noticed a correlation of that if you are actively running an SEO campaign and you turn on some spend with Google, it can be easier to rank organically. They will, and they do tell us that it should have no effect, but in actual effect, when we test it, it does certainly help. And the big reason for that they can't get away from or fully deny is that 94% of all of Google's revenue still comes through paid advertising. They own about 400 businesses. They do all sorts of different things, but still 94% of all of their revenue is through Google AdWords. It's the absolute holy grail for them. So yeah, it can have an effect. I don't know, Callum, if you want to add anything else to that.
Yeah, it can also have a negative effect as well. If you're already ranking pretty highly for keywords, there may be your big money keywords that are driving you lots of revenue, and then you switch on paid search for those keywords. You might end up spending for traffic that you'd have got organically for free anyway, obviously lowering your return on ad spend throughout all the different channels. So I think, yeah, it can positively affect it, but it can also have a negative effect as well if not done properly.
I think a prime example of that is bidding for your own brand terms. If you type your own brand name in and you're already top of the listings, why would you want to spend money on that unless other people are doing the same thing and bidding on your brand name? Why would you want to spend money having ads show up for your own brand name only to cost you more money when you're already at the top?
Yeah, exactly. There's another question here. So in terms of content, and since everyone is now researching about COVID, Would you recommend your clients to try and add content about how their brand is dealing with the situation, or completely different subject? So, I mean, as a business, we've done both. And that's the straightforward answer. We've allowed and wanted to keep people updated on how we're dealing with it, and we've created a page on our website which we update regularly with information about staff, about work environment when we moved to remote working, and we moved everybody to work from home. We just wanted to keep people updated. So I think that's a really good thing to do. I think as far as trying to rank it and rank content for COVID terms, there's so much noise out there now. I don't think it's worth it. I think it'd be better to focus on creating content for the keywords and terms that you want to go forward with, again, with the right intent, and focus your energy into that. I think would be a better use of the time.
Yeah, I think I'd also be extremely careful with how you word it as well. We've had clients that have worded the COVID message probably a little bit wrong and ended up losing a lot of revenue, or we saw a big drop in click-through rate, conversion rate, sorry. We've also used it almost as like a sales point for some clients. So we noticed one client had a 60% increase in calls. And a lot of this was people calling to ask if they were still open. So we added the banner to try and increase more inquiries through the website. And this particular client was in the construction industry. So their product, their service actually meant that you could reduce the amount of workers on site, which is what a lot of companies are trying to do with the social distancing. So that almost tied in quite well with what they do. So adding a banner with that sort of wording made sense.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Callum. Another one here. Hi guys, thanks for setting this up. We've recently started to optimize our SEO. We've been having an issue with our Google reviews. Unfortunately, a couple of our clients have left a review and it's been picked up as Google as a fake review for some reason. Is there anything you would recommend on how we can avoid this happening? And to be honest, this comes up a lot. Google, yeah, it's a tough one. The best way of getting around it is, if you're asking clients to write a review, ask them to name somebody within the business. One thing that I've noticed over the years is that if people mention, I don't know, just really want to thank Callum for all of his expertise on PPC, blah, 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 then the name alone tends to be picked up as credible. So that might be a way around it. If they're not putting names in, ask them to. And maybe the other thing is, if their account, if their Google account that they're using to write the review doesn't have a genuine picture or looks like it could be spammy or fake, then again, it can be judged by Google poorly. So I think the main thing is just try and get as much accurate data from that user, and it's extremely hard to do. There's no, obviously you're not in control of the person that's writing it. There's no easy way. There's just a way of hopefully guiding them to help you.
I think the important element to that is make sure you respond positively to everything that you get. So even if you get a negative review on there, at least address that you've understood the problem and that you're potentially looking at how to improve it to stop it from happening again. I think the whole review landscape has changed over the past sort of 12 to 18 months. Even places like Amazon have been criticized for having a lot of negative reviews on their site, and you can pretty much spot them straight away. They're usually users that have only ever reviewed one product, have probably left like one-line comments like, yes, this product was really good, will use again. And you can kind of spot patterns in those negative reviews. I think something big will happen to that whole review landscape over the next 12 months. What it is or what replaces it, I'm not quite sure. Maybe there'll be two-factor authentication whenever you leave a review, so that you leave a comment and you have to follow it up with a response to a text message to make sure that you're a genuine reviewer. But I think that whole landscape will change over the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Question here from Colin. I appreciate this session is about SEO. Can you just say a few words on PPC, for example? In what ways is COVID-19 impacting PPC? I alluded to it at the start, and I'll just say a couple of bits, and then Callum might want to add something. But we've noticed, and it does depend on industry, but some of the cost per clicks are actually coming down because less people are advertising, people are pulling back. That creates an opportunity. It means that for the same budget, you get more bang for your buck. So it is impacting the amount of advertising spend that's going through Google's pockets. It's also impacting the amount of competition that are advertising. So we will do a session on PPC. I think there's opportunity there. More people than ever are on Google, and the cost to be there is cheaper. So it's got to be a positive thing. The difficulty is, depending on your business, it's whether you can service the leads or the people, etc., if you get them through in this time. So there's a few things that obviously are behind it, but certainly from what does the landscape look like? The landscape looks like it should be more effective than ever, potentially. Have anything to add?
Yeah, I think quite a few of our clients and companies that we work with have been pretty scared to spend on PPC over the last couple of weeks, and there has been quite a lot of consumer uncertainty. I think a lot of that has lied around the government's message not being very clear, people not necessarily knowing how long we're going to be in lockdown for, whether non-essential deliveries will still be delivered in a week's time, in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time. And I think that's pulled people back a little bit. So we've noticed a lot of our clients come to us to ask to pull back on PPC spend. And a lot of PPC agencies are struggling at the moment. But I think, like Luke said, with that comes opportunity. There's also massively reduced competition on pay-per-click at the moment. The CPCs are a lot lower. So there's definitely some advantage you can take there. And perhaps it could be as simple as just changing your messaging on your adverts and attracting maybe a different kind of customer, adjusting the product, the service a little bit. But yeah, there's 100% a lot of opportunity out there.
Thanks, Callum. Another one here from Jasleen. Does a multi-language plugin on WordPress affect SEO? Nick, probably one for you.
Does it affect SEO? It depends how good the plugin is. Like I said earlier, it's okay to have multiple pages with essentially the same content on in different languages if the intent is to serve people in different locations or that have perhaps searched in a different language to what you would expect. So if somebody's searching for a page in English based in Spain, for example, then they'll be served with the English page by Google. I think it's okay to do that. I think you just have to be careful how you implement it and not to rely fully on default settings of any one particular plugin. So just being really thorough, going through, crawling the site with Screaming Frog, seeing what pages come up, how they're all linked together. I think, yeah, the key to it is just be really in depth with your review of how well it's working, and don't rely on it 100% on its own.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. One from Nick Paul here. How important is social media in supporting rankings? For example, if you stop SEO activity, what happens? So there is an element to social that affects SEO, and it's called social signals. So what Google can't do is read the data inside Facebook, for example. They're closed, it's a closed platform, but what it can pick up is whether a business page is active, is getting engagement, if posts are having engagement, and that's part of the trust factor that goes into Google's algorithm. So it does play a part. Now, we guess that the percentage part of that is really small. If we look at the algorithm as maybe 300 different elements, it's marginal, it's really small, but still has a small amount of impact. If the question relates to the current environment and whether you should be spending on that currently, I would probably say, a couple of posts going out to keep users engaged is probably fine, but that's not going to have a massive detrimental effect long term on SEO, as long as you're still putting something out there and it's getting engagement. Okay. From Connor, in terms of adding your location within meta tags, is your if your company is in a small area and the nearest city is London, where most of our clients come from, as well as across the globe, would you suggest having London in the meta titles rather than the local location, or is that too broad? To be honest, what I would probably do and recommend is that you set up location-based pages within the website. So you'd create a /London, a / I don't know, Manchester, / wherever, or have a look at your customer base, understand where or locations that they've come from historically. Obviously, you know, London's a big part of that, and create location pages that are relevant to those. And then you can optimize those for those specific locations, and that will help to drive local search. One in relation to when using WordPress, do pages and posts rank the same, or is the page better? Okay, yes, I see what you mean now. So you mean a blog post versus a page? To be honest, it depends. If you've done your research and the blog content or the intent is really good, the chances are you can rank really well with that piece of content for informational type searches. Again, this goes back to this intent piece. Are we getting the intent right? If we are, and we've hit the right information based intent, chances are you can rank it, yeah. But the page, a page, if it's supported by blog content like we showed in that structure, should in theory do better because you're supporting it and it's interlinking. Well, all of them by interlinking in essence should do better. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, this answer. They can both do well, but if you use them effectively, they can help each other. Nick, can you please explain the Wikipedia bit again? Yeah, absolutely. That's a little bit of what I was mentioning then as well, Nick. So the key is to make sure that the structure of the pages and the way that they link together, and this is where Wikipedia comes in because it links content really effectively. You can see that if you start looking for a piece of fruit, it will then link to every type of fruit there is, and then if you click on banana, for example, it will take you to recipes for banana cake, banoffee pie, whatever it might be. So it supports that term with lots of layered content. It's exactly the same process for any service or any business, any product that you offer. You need to follow that piece so that you have the right intent, or you're covering all intent searches basically by doing that. So if you think the homepage might be very broad, it might be informational, understanding, for example, what fruit is, then when you click through to the next layer, it starts to explain what individual or specific fruits are, and then below that you've got you know, how to use that fruit, how to create new recipes, how to whatever. So hopefully that gives a bit of guidance on there. When I share this with you, if you do have questions, Nick, just give me a call and I'll happily go through it with you as well. What budget would you suggest an SME should be applying to marketing and SEO? Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, it's a good question, and it really depends. It depends on how much time and resource is required, I think, and it also depends on the type of search that you're looking for. So if you're looking for localized search, if your business is focused on local postcode areas, for example, it's a lot easier to create a strategy that can rank for that. Probably needs slightly less time. If you start to become regional or national, international, it needs a lot more attention and time to do it. The thing with SEO, I always mention when I sort of do pitches or whatever, is that it is just process. It's actually not rocket science. I know it might seem that to people at times, but it is just process. And if you follow the right steps, you're rewarded. How quickly you can then do those steps comes down to budget. So if you're spending you know, 500 quid a month, you're going to do it in X amount of time, whereas if you're spending £2 grand a month, you can do it a lot quicker. So there's lots of answers to that, but I think one of the best things to do is probably just get an audit or a review done. We'll happily do it for yourselves, and just give you some guidelines or different packages or options. Basically, what we tend to normally do is offer like a steady package, faster, rapid package, and then maybe like a really super quick one. So just gives you a guidance there. Hopefully that answers that. And that takes us to the end of the questions. There will be a chance afterwards. I'm going to email everybody directly, so you'll have a chance to come back to me with any questions. We move through to the resources, moving towards the end now. So in here, there's some tools and some bits that will be really useful for you to pick up and have a look at. The top tools there, Nightwatch, Ahrefs, SEMrush, they all focus very much on being able to track keywords, look at movements, understand whether the work you're doing for SEO is actually moving things forward. Obviously, I would hope most of you are au fait with analytics. One thing we do notice that quite a lot when we take on or inherit websites from people that have been managing sites directly, they haven't always gone and set up what's called Google Search Console. So if you just search in Google Search Console, it's going to throw up a platform called Google Webmasters. When you click into that, you can submit a sitemap, and by submitting a sitemap, it sounds very simple. It forces Google to come and crawl the site because it likes to cache and make sure it's got relevant data. If you do that regularly, it gives Google a prompt to come back to your website. Google has a thing that's called Google Search or crawl budget, and if it comes to your site and it's not active, you're not changing things. Let's say it comes on day 1 and the site is as it is. It comes back on day 2 and there's no fresh content. It comes back day 3, there's still no fresh content or anything changed. It might then not come back for 3 days because it's got lots of other places to go that are updating more regularly. And before you know it, it might not come to your site for a week or 2 because it feels like you always stay the same, you're stagnant. So it's really important to constantly pull Google back in, be updating, be making changes, and be pulling them back into the website. There's other things in here as well. Obviously the Google My Business we talked about, Screaming Frog we talked about, but play with these tools. If you have any questions, feed them back to us, we'll help. We obviously have our own blog section where we update lots and lots of content on there throughout the months. To have a look, I think there's a few hundred or so blogs from the last year or so. So lots of bits you can pull back, and also some guides and some blogs to read at your own leisure. So really from here, just to sort of round things up, I hope that everyone's found it useful. Obviously, it's the first one of these we've done, so hopefully it's been something that you can take away and that you can action. What we are going to do going forward is offer a few things to each of you to try and support through this COVID situation and this time. So everybody is open for a free SEO audit. We normally charge for these, but we'll obviously offer these now to businesses that are interested in us doing an audit, having a look at what we think you could be doing, or wherever there's support needed, we could potentially help you with. We will follow up with a full recording of the webinar, obviously all the bits that I mentioned with written answers. You'll get a personal follow-up from me as well, so you have direct access to chat to me if you want to. And then going through the next couple of months, as we're in this COVID situation, what we thought would be a good thing to do is give 1 hour to 2 hours a month completely free dialogue with ourselves and the team. So if there are bits that you have questions on or that you're trying to implement from this strategy, give us a call or an email or whatever, and we'll pick that up and give you some support as we go forward. We're also going to start, depending on feedback from this, of course, doing a sort of weekly session like this. So next Friday, same time. We'll probably try and cap it to 1 hour each week, so it's more workable for people. But we're going to do one that's COVID-19, how to leverage social media and paid social media, so organic and paid. I think there's some really useful bits in there that people can pick up. And we're going to set that one up. That if anyone's got any ideas or suggestions or bits that you'd like covered in future sessions, then please just email us. You can email me directly when you get my email, or hello@Digital Ethos just to follow up. But yeah, so that's it for today. Hopefully that's been useful. As I say, expect to hear from us in the coming few hours with all the bits that we've mentioned, and any questions afterwards, we'll be happy to pick it up. Thanks so much, and wishing you all a fantastic day ahead.